My stepfather is refusing to make me partner in the family business after 9 years of dedicating my life to it. He wants to give it to his son instead, who, by the way, has been messing up in every aspect of his life, and that's word from around town. But yet he can just waltz in there and take what is rightfully mine. Well, I won't let that fly. I'm going to do something, and guys, yes, it might be a little drastic. I don't know where to begin. I'm sitting here typing this feeling anger, and I just need to vent. It's hard to put into words the level of betrayal I'm feeling. I'm 33, and I've spent nearly a decade of my life working for my stepfather's company, giving everything I had to make it succeed. I now feel like all that effort has been for nothing. To make matters worse, the person who has landed the CEO position, the one who didn't even work for it, the one who doesn't even want it, is my stepbrother. I don't know how I let this happen. Maybe I was too trusting, too hopeful. Maybe I wanted to believe in the idea that hard work would eventually pay off, and that loyalty and dedication would get recognition in the end. But I'm crushed now, and I'm not sure how to move forward. Let me just go ahead and take you back to the very beginning. My stepfather Mike is a self-made man. He's been in logistics for decades and built his company from the ground up. When I was 13, my mother married Mike, and I thought that he was the larger-than-life figure in my life. He was strong, determined, successful, and as a young child I looked up to him. He always talked about how important hard work was and how you could achieve anything if you put your mind to it. My mother passed after I was in college. I was depressed, but then Mike suggested I join the company to divert and utilize my brain. I decided to take his advice and join his company. Mike gave me my first job, and he made it clear that nothing would be handed to me. I'd have to start at the bottom and earn my way up. I took the challenge to heart. I worked long hours, took on roles that nobody else wanted, and gave everything I had to help the company grow. Over time, I became more than just an employee. I became a driving force behind the company's success. I started to implement changes that drastically improved our operations. I streamlined processes, reduced costs, and boosted profits in ways that nobody else even thought of. My suggestions were often met with praise. Mike seemed genuinely proud of the work I was doing. He often told me that I was a vital part of the company's success, and that the business wouldn't be there without my contributions. But as much as Mike praised me, he never offered the kind of recognition I was really hoping for. I mean, he would talk about how I was one of the company's greatest assets, hinting at a bigger role in the future, maybe a partnership or a leadership position on the horizon. I wasn't expecting to be handed anything, but I thought that after all the years of hard work, loyalty, and sacrifice, I'd earn my place at the top. But it never came. That's where my stepbrother Evan comes in. Evan is Mike's biological son, 5 years younger than me, and the truth is he and I never really saw eye to eye. He's always been the artistic type, free-spirited, a little careless, and never really interested in logistics. While I was working tirelessly, Evan would pop in and out of the company whenever he felt like it. He would try his hand at a role for a few months, show up for a bit, and then disappear to do something else. He wasn't invested in the company, at least not in the way that I was. I didn't think it would matter. I figured Mike was proud of Evan for different reasons, and that he wasn't going to push him into the company because he knew Evan didn't want it. At least, that's what I told myself. But over time, I started to notice things that made me uncomfortable. Mike began to speak about Evan as if he were destined for bigger things, as if Evan was the one who would take over the company one day. It was subtle at first, just small comments about how Evan was the future of the business, and I tried to brush it off. After all, Mike had always been supportive of me too, right? But those comments kept coming, and the more they came, the more uneasy I felt because Evan did not want the company. He didn't have the passion, the knowledge, or the experience to lead it well. I knew that, but somehow Mike was convinced that I, even after being alongside him for nearly a decade, was just a secondary player in all of this. I just couldn't shake the feeling. A few months ago, Mike announced his retirement. We were called into a meeting, and I just thought this would finally be the moment I had worked toward. I wasn't expecting a promotion straight to CEO, but after all the years of hard work, I thought I would be running for something, anything. Maybe I would be the COO or take on a more senior leadership role. But when Mike made his announcement, everything I believed came crashing down. He named Evan as the next CEO of the company. He framed it as a decision to keep the business in the family, as if I wasn't part of that family too. I sat there stunned, listening to Mike go on and on about how Evan was the perfect fit for the role. It felt like a gut punch. I swear I couldn't even comprehend what was happening. After all the years I had devoted to the company, after all the sacrifices I made, Mike chose Evan, the one who never truly cared about the business, the one who barely even showed up, to take over. And Evan did not even protest. Why would he? He was handed something he didn't work for, a role he never wanted. I watched him stumble through the first meetings with all the grace of a fish out of water, trying to act like he knew what he was doing. It was humiliating. I confronted Mike in Evan's presence, only for Evan to smirk, and Mike asked me to be patient, throwing wise words at me. You want to know the worst part? Mike expected me to stay and support Evan to help him transition into the role. I was furious. How could I stay? How could I continue to work for someone who hadn't even bothered to consider me for the position I earned? How could I keep giving everything I had to a company that had never truly valued me? I couldn't. After weeks and weeks of sleepless nights, internal struggles, and pure frustration, I made the decision to walk away from the home and the company. It wasn't easy. That company was my life for nearly a decade. It was more than just a job to me, it was everything. But I couldn't stay. I couldn't keep pretending that this was a company I had worked so hard to build. So I left, and nobody stopped me. Evan seemed pleased to see me go, and Mike had nothing to say, and now I feel like I'm starting over. Finding a home for myself wasn't as tough. I'm looking into career opportunities now, and I'm even considering starting my own business, but it's hard. It's frustrating. The bitterness and anger are still there, bubbling just beneath the surface. I'm trying to move on, but it feels impossible. How do I let go of all these years I've spent investing in something that was never meant to be mine? How do I stop feeling like I was robbed of what I worked for? I'm lost. I feel like I've been kicked to the curb by the very people I trusted the most. And now I'm just trying to pick up the pieces. If anyone here has been through something similar, if you've experienced betrayal like this in a family business, I would really appreciate your advice. I just don't know where to go from here. I feel like I'm drowning in frustration, sadness, anger, and I'm not sure how to keep going or move forward. Please web a date one. It's been a month since my last update, and honestly, I can't believe how everything spiraled. Some of you were kind enough to give me your advice, and I'm here to thank you all, and for those of you who have given me the truth and words of encouragement, thank you as well. So let's start with where I'm at now. I don't even know where to start. The level of absurdity, betrayal, and downright arrogance I've witnessed from Mike and Evan has left me shaking my head. I thought I was done with them after I walked away, but apparently they weren't done with me. Right after I walked out of Mike's business and house, I got hired by a competitor, and things took off for me in ways I didn't anticipate. They gave me a much higher salary, complete control over my projects, and the respect I'd been craving for years. I threw myself into work, and for the first time in forever, I felt like I was actually allowed to show my true potential. The clients started noticing, and the firm started pulling in big wins, landing projects Mike's company could only dream of. Meanwhile, back at Mike's company, the cracks began to show almost immediately. Under Evan's so-called leadership, the incompetence was staggering. Evan mismanaged accounts that had been steady for years. He poured ridiculous amounts of money into flashy, pointless upgrades for the office and threw lavish events that did nothing to secure new clients or nurture existing ones. Vital relationships that took years to build were either ignored or outright ruined. To make it worse, some of the key clients I'd worked with saw the writing on the wall and started jumping ship, many of them coming directly to me at my new company. Word spread fast. Former colleagues from Mike's firm began reaching out, expressing how miserable things had become under Evan. Some even hinted at wanting to follow me to the new company, and a couple of them actually did. The industry is a small world, and it didn't take long for everyone to realize Mike's company was in a free fall while my new firm was thriving. What surprised me the most was that I started hearing about the chaos at Mike's company directly from some of my old team members, people who had always believed I should be the one to take over. These well-wishers had been feeding me updates, not to stir drama, but because they were genuinely rooting for me and were disappointed that Mike never gave me the chance I deserved. I thought that was it, that I was done with the mess and they could deal with the fallout on their own. But no, Mike had one last trick up his sleeve. He showed up at my new office completely unannounced, acting like he was doing me a favor. He had the audacity to offer me a so-called last chance to come back to his company. The nerve. He even spun it like he was being generous, as if I should be grateful for his crap. I told him point blank that the only way I'd consider it was if Evan stepped down and I was given full control, as he had once promised me. That's when he let the mask slip. Mike laughed in my face, mocking me. He revealed what I'd suspected all along. He never saw me as anything more than a pawn. He admitted that he used me, my strategies, my hard work, to build his company into what it once was, only to hand it over to Evan when the time came. He even had the nerve to call it pity when he promoted me in the past, as if I should have been grateful to be exploited. Hearing him say it out loud, with that smug look on his face, was the last straw. I was done, done with his manipulation, done with his lies, and done being anyone's backup plan. I told him exactly where he could shove his offer. There was no way I would return to that toxic environment, especially after everything he'd revealed. I don't care if it's pride or principle, but I refuse to be a part of a system that undermines my values. I told him to get out and never call, contact, or meet me again, because my nerves were wrecked with a strange mixture of anger and relief. Anger because of the sheer disrespect, but relief because I knew I'd made the right decision to leave. And while I've been pouring my energy into building something great at my new firm, Mike's company has continued to sharply decline. The more Evan neglected it, the more high-profile clients left, and those who haven't already jumped ship are seriously considering it. They see what's happening. A company driven by ego and nepotism, with no one in charge who actually knows what they're doing. Evan's behavior has only made things worse. He's completely out of touch, living the high life while the company burns around him. Lavish vacations, over-the-top spending, zero accountability. It's like he's oblivious, or maybe he just doesn't care. And Mike, he's too proud to admit he's made a mistake. Instead of holding Evan accountable, he's lashing out at everyone, blaming them for the company's decline. But deep down, I think he knows. He just can't bring himself to admit that handing everything over to Evan was a colossal failure. According to those well-wishers, the tension between Mike and Evan has exploded. Their constant fighting peaked a couple of weeks ago when Mike snapped, telling Evan he would never measure up to me. He even threw it in Evan's face that I, the supposed traitor, was 10 times the businessman he could ever be. Can you guys believe it? After treating me like I didn't matter for years, Mike's now using me as a weapon against his own son. I wasn't there, but I can imagine the scene. Evan must have been absolutely gutted. The jealousy he always had toward me, it's now full-blown hatred. He sees me as the guy who outshone him, the person his father secretly wishes were his heir. It's pathetic. All of this could have been avoided if Mike had valued skill over nepotism, but instead, he set Evan up to fail and drove a wedge between them. At this point, I don't feel sorry for either of them. They made their bed, and now they're going to lie in it. I've moved on, focusing on my new role and building something meaningful, but every time I hear another story about their implosion, I can't help but feel a mixture of disbelief and vindication. It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck, and you can't look away, so that's where things stand. I'm thriving while they're collapsing. What bait too? Hey, I didn't think I'd even be here typing out an update. 3 months ago, I never thought I'd see the day when I would feel any sense of satisfaction about what's been happening with Mike and Evan. But here I am, in a place I never thought I'd be. Let me rewind a little. It all started when I secured a major partnership with one of the largest companies in the industry. It was a dream come true. one that I'd worked my whole life for. But just when I thought I could finally enjoy the fruits of my labor, Evan, who, for those of you who don't remember, is Mike's son and my former stepbrother, decided to pull one last move I never saw coming. Since I went to the media 3 months ago, well, let's just say we've had a very rocky relationship. Evan, in his infinite wisdom, thought he could take me down. I guess the idea of me thriving in the industry after everything really ate at him. He thought that by using his family's connections, he could discredit me. And so he did what only someone like him would do. He got a news station to run a story about me, a smear campaign that painted me as the villain, the one who ripped apart Mike's company. The piece was pure fiction. They claimed I only cared about my personal gain at the expense of the family legacy. I really couldn't believe it at first. Not because I thought they were right, but because once again, somebody was trying to rewrite the narrative of my life. The story gained traction, and for a moment it felt like everything I'd worked for, everything I'd achieved, was about to come crashing down. The business I'd worked so hard to build was suddenly under attack. My name being dragged through the mud by somebody who had never known a day of hard work in his life. The media ran with it, and for a moment it seemed like I was on the brink of losing everything. But I wasn't just going to let it happen. This wasn't just about me. It was about the integrity I'd built my career on and the countless hours I'd put into getting to where I was. I wasn't going to let them use their power and privilege to crush me. And that's when I made the decision. I was going to fight back, and I was going to do it in a way that left no room for doubt, by standing in front of the world and telling the truth. I called for a press conference, and to be honest, I wasn't entirely sure at first if it was the right decision. After all, the last thing I wanted was to give Mike and Evan the attention they so clearly craved. But I realized it wasn't just about my business, and most importantly, it was about the truth, and I was going to make sure the world knew it. On the day of the press conference, I was nervous. I don't think anybody would be immune to that kind of pressure, but I had to stand my ground. I had to show the world who I really was, not just in business, but as a person. I couldn't afford to let the anger I was feeling cloud my judgment. I had to be calm, cool, collected, and methodical. I wasn't there to make a scene. I wasn't there to yell or throw accusations. I was there to tell the truth, and the truth I knew would speak for itself. As I walked into that room, I could feel the eyes of the reporters and industry leaders weighing down on me. It was a room full of powerful people, people who could either make or break me with a single word. But I did not let that intimidate me. I had lived through enough in my career to know how to handle pressure. I started addressing the allegations, speaking clearly and firmly, laying out the facts one by one. I explained how Mike had manipulated me for years, hinting at a partnership, only to hand it to his biological son, Evan, who didn't deserve it. It wasn't just a matter of family loyalty, it was a matter of business. Mike had made a poor decision to give his son the reins of the company. Evan had no real drive, no true understanding of the business. He was handed everything on a silver platter because of his last name, and it showed in the way he operated. I didn't stop there. I didn't just tell the world what they wanted to hear, I gave them proof. I pulled out a CCTV recording that I had kept hidden until that moment, a recording of a conversation I had with Mike 3 months earlier, when he'd approached me with his proposal of one last chance and I'd turned him down. It showed Mike's true colors. The room was completely silent. When I finished, you could hear a pin drop. I don't think anybody had expected that level of transparency, that kind of evidence. Mike and Evan had become so comfortable in their lies that they never anticipated anyone would challenge them like this. They never expected that I would have the guts to stand up and expose the truth. And that was the turning point. As I stood there, the weight of what I had just revealed began to sink in. Everyone had initially jumped on me, believing Evan's version of events, and now they had to confront the truth. The press quickly shifted their focus. They questioned Mike's judgment, his misguided loyalty to Evan, and the toxic favoritism that was slowly but surely destroying everything he'd built. It's almost poetic. Evan, the entitled son of a wealthy man, tried to destroy me, but in the end his own actions led to his downfall. His reputation crumbled, and nobody wanted to work with him. And now, isolated once again, he's going to carry the weight of nothing but shame.